That means I get to advocate Google products to all of you guys who are developers, I hope. Are you all developers? Yeah? Yeah, woo! Okay, so the web is a very big place, as we all know. This is one of those slides that corporate make me put in, and it's like, okay, I think everyone knows the web is pretty big, but anyway. This is iGoogle, or was iGoogle a while back. How many people are familiar with iGoogle? Okay, maybe it's going to be easier. How many people don't know what iGoogle is? You install gadgets or widgets or applications from other partners. Now, this is one that I have for travel. I have to travel quite a lot for work, so I have gadgets that help me find cheap flights. But this is my homepage. But it's got like a map search. It's got some stupid eyes, which will follow my mouse around the screen. It's got Guardian Fantasy Football League. It's got Bejeweled for when I'm really bored in the office. That's not true. I never get bored in the office. And some reviews of computer games, because I spend far too much time playing computer games. And I'm happy to see that Hasbro have released Scrabble. That's great. Okay. Anyway, so what iGoogle lets you do is take bits and pieces from your favorite websites and plug them together and really make a start page of your own. It's a really powerful tool. But here's where it all started. I'm back with RSS feeds. I'm just going to go ahead and assume you all know what RSS is. But it used to be the case that you could take a feed from a website, and instead of having to visit and search that website every day, they could push information to you. And you could just visit that website when there was something relevant. Actually, before I go on, I should say, my worst habit is I will talk faster and faster and faster. So if at any point I'm going too quickly for you, just throw something at me. I'll dodge it and I'll slow down, okay? And maybe trip over. So very quickly, iGoogle became a richer experience. You can see here that it's moved from simple RSS to much richer applications. These are effectively mini web pages. Anything that you can do on the web. Logging into remote systems, PHP pages, Java, JavaScript, Flash, anything at all that works on a web page will work in a widget, work in a gadget space, very, very easily. And containers, these sort of hosts for widgets, are popping up everywhere too. This is Google Maps. And there's something called maplets, which allow you to embed gadgets into Google Maps, perform searches, and then plot the results directly onto Google Maps. So here for a real estate search, this is pulling information from Google Base, which is our database product, geocoding the results, and then sticking pins on a map so that you can actually see where things are. But all someone's done is gone and written a little bit of JavaScript and HTML to query Google Base and then format the results for Google Maps. So they haven't actually got a website. They've just written I don't honestly know why, I hope we're not videoing this, but I don't honestly know why anyone would use this application. I mean, you know, you kind of email your friend and pick a Starbucks and say, let's meet for a coffee. Surely you can just email them instead of having to go through this app. But it's a nice idea. They got a bit of traction initially. And then Honda, who make cars, did this. They sponsored a band called Fall Out Boy. And so this was an advertisement that they ran on websites that would attract the target audience, so teenage kids. And then had this button at the bottom. And when you click this, it actually added this thing. Let's pretend we didn't see that. Everybody's writing code. So for iGoogle, there are over 45,000 gadgets available in the directory right now. And the most popular of those are actually some of the simplest. We'll have a look at some of them in a minute. There are over 100,000 sites using gadgets, though. So 100,000 websites which can take Google gadgets that other people have written and put them on their own website. So it's not just iGoogle that they live at. So imagine that you're writing a blog and it's about, I don't know, tennis. But you're not very good at tennis, like me. Results or, best pictures of the day, you can take that code, put it on your website, you can continue to write and comment about tennis, but bang, you've got all this great, rich content without having to look for it or pay for it. So it's a really powerful way of adding content. The benefit for the person creating we've got around 100 gadgets with more than 1 million users. And I guess these are what you'd expect them to be, things like Gmail and weather, and Dell resell, or Dell bundle iGoogle and have an iGoogle customer help page, so that has a lot of installs too. There's around 500 gadgets with more than 100,000 users. Again, these are probably pretty predictable. Stock trackers, translation gadgets, a spider that runs around your screen, obviously. iGoogle are not using the top 125 gadgets. Now, for all of the products, what you'll see is it's actually much more weighted this way, in that it's only going to be sort of 10% of the traffic is outside the top 125. With gadgets, people are looking for something to solve a particular task. And so if we have a look at this travel example that I had earlier, if I can find it, there we go. You'll see 3 gadgets in a row here. Now, if I need to get, say, from London to New York, I can do a search, but all that's doing is opening up a page on Travelocity. That's kind of worthless to me because I know where the Travelocity website is. I know how to fill in their form. That's got the special offer. The problem is they don't tell me where the hotel is. It could be Germany, it could be America, it could be Iceland, for all I know. I've still got to go to their website to get the details. So you kind of think that's quite interesting, but it's not. Expedia have got the right idea. What they let you do is because now I can say that I want to get from Los Angeles to JFK sometime in June. The first is going to be the cheapest date. I don't have to go back and do this same search every day to try and find a cheap flight. I just know that the first is going to be the cheapest. So actually, do that every day. That's when you're going to have real success. So Google. When we build developer products, we have 3 main tenets that we follow. Open, fast, and easy. Open, we want to embrace open technologies. And you've heard from these guys earlier about how we're doing that with things like GData, which follows AtomPub. We try to use JavaScript where we can for the Ajax API. To load, that's it, they're done, gone. And they're never coming back either. And they're going to tell their friends how much you sucked. So it's got to be fast. And that's something that we've really tried to do with iGoogle and Open Social, make it responsive. And it's got to be easy for us as developers to learn. At work, I might be given a couple of hours to investigate a new technology and try and get an overview of it. But I can't say to my boss, can I just have a week to go and learn this new API and see what's going on? She's going to say no. No, you can't. You've got work to do, which is fair enough. But with Google, what we've tried to do is make all the tools easy enough to pick up in a couple of hours. You should be able to go to code.google.com, cut and paste some code into one of your websites, and have an application running. Actually be able to see a Google product working on your page or have your product working on a Google platform. That's absolutely key. If you're having to spend a week just to get a web page showing, then we've done something really, really wrong.
So, why open social? Well, one of the problems with, it's not a problem. One of the great things about Facebook is their platform. There are lots and lots and lots of applications for Facebook because it's a really powerful platform. Everyone and their friend is on it, and everyone's got a really strong social graph. So when someone writes an application like throwing a sheep or Super Poke or my mega best friend, there's a social graph to apply it to. The problem is, as a developer, specification that we thought made sense for social applications, and we implemented it. Because specifications are great, but they can just lead to endless conversation. You need a piece of software that you can reference and go, this is how it works. So we did. But we also realized we really only had Orkut as a reference point, and we probably hadn't done a very good job of defining a spec. But we had something at least. So what we did was speak to a few of the big providers like MySpace and say, look, we've done this, we'd like you to implement, and you know what, we're not married to this. This isn't a fixed concept. It's only version 0.5. We thought we were about halfway there. It's a version 0.5 of the spec. And we want feedback from the field. And MySpace came on, and they helped us push it to version 0.7. And they implemented OpenSocial. And now we have about 800 million users on OpenSocial across the web. And in fact, I think I fired up the wrong presentation. Yes, I have. Okay. It is this one. Okay, sorry, I'm just going to have to skip ahead here. Pretend you haven't seen any of this. I'll dance. Oh, okay, so this one here. This is another evidence of the web evolving. I don't know if you can read. Most of them said they didn't like it. It was too slow, they couldn't tell if their friends had actually read the message, and they preferred instant messaging. Once they grow up and hit business, out there. Maybe as many as 1 billion, it's hard to measure. There's, as we'll see, kind of around 200 million users on Facebook and its clones, and around 600 million on OpenSocial. But one of the key things is it's a viral channel. You get social graphs of friends, and it's not just the friends. I don't know how many of you use Facebook. Most of you. Most people I know at work have Facebook open in the background during the day, and they'll kind of surf it, and they'll finish a bit of work or finish a meeting and have a quick look at Facebook. They have about 40 million users. MySpace is probably the biggest open social network, and that's about 120 million users. You've got lots of different types of viral channels on social networks. So there are different ways to interact with people. It can be as simple as a friend request, or it can be more complicated. You could get a message from a friend of a friend in their activity stream saying that they're doing something that you might like. There's lots of ways to blog today. It's actually doing the job of advertising for me. It's pushing that out to a wider audience. And hopefully some of my friends want to read what I've got to say. Maybe not, who knows. Talking about sticky engagement, a generic website might get 3.5 visits a month with maybe 1.5 minutes on the site. And so, a total of around 6 minutes. For longer. I think we all know this, but it's interesting to actually see it as data from ComScore. Why do users spend time on social networks? We all spend time on social networks. I think we know the answer to this. Extending new friends, and it's through playing with applications. You've seen this graph already, so around 45,000 gadgets already available for iGoogle. And just to kind of let you know how insane this has got, this is Gain. I'd never heard of Gain. It's an American laundry detergent. I don't know if it's popular over here. It doesn't really matter. The point is, you can post your Gainenthusiasm. And what that means is you can get one of these badges for Facebook or MySpace that says, seriously, I like Gain. And they've got over 100,000 people who've taken this badge and put it on their website and said, you know what? My life is about washing powder. Woo! Really love this washing powder. They must be doing something right. Or it may be that actually users on this these networks are just starved for really good applications. If they're having to resort to putting a laundry detergent badge on their website or on their profile page, maybe there should be some better content out there for them. Here's an example of a great application. And I'm going to show it to you live, because screenshots just don't do it justice. See the likeness? There's actually a lot of opportunity within TypeRacer to really make your avatar look like you. And then you can interact with other people. So I'm zombie dancing at the moment, but then I sent this to Tom. He and I are driving around town, and in a minute he overtakes and I do a wheelie. Yeah. The point is, this is one of the most popular apps on OpenSocial. And you change your mood, bam, done. And now everyone who comes to my profile page is going to be able to see me doing this. But what they've also done, which is really, really smart, is whenever I make a change to my presence or when I send a message to a friend, it says, hey, do you want to put this on your activity stream? And by doing that, not only am I saying that I'm engaging with their app, but I'm also advertising on their behalf. Many of you have built a website. And it's also embedded directly in the social network. That means that you're actually at a place where people are already hanging out. You're at a point where they're ready to engage with you. So you're making this stuff available. And it's almost like a free advertising channel. People are there, they're looking for content, and you happen to be present, you can get some real traction. And there are lots of games that are coming out too. Branding apps can be addictive games, but actually one of my favorite is TypeRacer. Now, I recommend, and in fact I'd love it if you did, go onto Orkut and install this app, TypeRacer. You'll see, let me make the font size bigger so you guys at the back can see. Now, my typing speed, this is the number of words per minute that I can type at. My typing speed is something I'd never really cared about in the past, at all. So what, I can type, 20, 30 words a minute. I can type fast enough to do my job. To write to his activity stream that he could write 50 words a minute. And I thought, maybe I can too. And so I installed this app, and I went and had 8 tries, and after 8 tries, I managed to get up to 66. And then we both emailed Peter and said, we bet you can't beat us. And he beat Chris, but not me. So I still feel pretty good. So if you guys want to use this, log on, add me as a friend, try and beat me. I'd love to see it. But the point is, I can't imagine brands. Basically, I mean, this is stuff we've already been over, and I don't want to bore you, but there's a huge audience, there's a huge opportunity right now. And because you're not actually deploying your own website, and BuddyPoke, in fact, runs on App Engine, which JF will talk about in a bit, not BuddyPoke, but App Engine, you can build a very scalable, viral social application and not have to worry about it crashing or running out of bandwidth or machines or just collapsing in general under the load. Right, yep, you've seen that. So the web is still a very big place. So what is Open Social? It is a set of APIs for building social applications, and there are three main parts. You can tell this is another corporate slide. Oh, what do I do? Open Social. But instead of having to write once for each of these different networks and many, many more, you write simply to the Open Social specification, and any of these sites can take the application and plug directly in. In fact, what it's trying to solve is this issue here. This is a map from XKCD, which is an online comic. And it's obviously a fantasy map, but it's talking about the social web and different places you can visit. This is MySpace, Facebook, Zhangar, Orkut, SciWorld, Friendster, Last.fm, Wikipedia, IRC Isles. Lots of different websites out there. You may have visited one of these. You may, in fact, live, in social sound like an amazing thing, which it kind of is, but it's a natural progression. But before Open Social, you'd have had to basically activities, so being able to read and write to the activity stream, and persistent data. And what this means is you can store small amounts of settings on the social network. It's not designed for storing, huge raw video files. Right? But people who are just looking to have a fun time on the web. LinkedIn, Plaxo, Salesforce is more people who are looking for business contacts. And they don't want applications that let people throw sheep or, say how many times they've been to the bathroom that day. Being taken onto the more social sites because people want this functionality on their social side. Here's the growth of the networks up to sort of December last year, and the projection for Q1, which is kind of coming out. We're getting close to about 900 million now. You can see that actually the majority of networks are kind of MySpace and High Five. That's 200 million right there. But with Yahoo coming online, when they do, that's going to add another 150 million or so, which should be good news. So, to code. I know, what you've all been waiting for. Woo! Hopefully, is there anyone who doesn't recognize what this is? Apart from Giselle. Okay. This is a web page. This is an open social gadget, or well, at least a Google gadget. And you can see you have module preferences instead. For the title, you just have the title within the module prefs. Instead of body, you have content, and you just say that it's type HTML, and then you obviously close the tags off at the end. There's actually a little bit more you have to do to make it a gadget, and that's add a namespace identifier and just some CData tags to escape the content in here so it's not parsed. But basically, it's the same as a web page. To make it an open social application, can anyone guess what you have to do? You probably won't if you don't know, so I'll just show you. You add this line here, require feature open social 0.7. That's it, done. That will tell the container that it's embedded on to load those libraries, and the entire open social namespace is now accessible to you. I mean, it really is that simple. So we're going to have a look at sample app. And for this, I'm going to sit down because I have to do a bit more typing. So you'll hear me, but you might not see me at the back. It's OK. You don't want to be looking at me. You want to be looking here because this is what you're getting tested on. So, hi, guys. Can you, oh. There we go. OK, so you can see here that I've fleshed out a very simple application that's going to let me get some friends and write that information. So I've just got some stubs. Function get data, function onload friends. Specification or reloading or caching or storing the file anywhere. You can write your JavaScript directly into here, hit execute. I should remove that alert, and allow me to start from fresh. So just whatever you're doing, stick CLS at the top. So first of all, we're going to have a look at the request for friends information. Let me stand back up and get the clicker. So this is my get data function. The first thing I'm going to do, and remember, I've recorded rec new, then I'm going to say rec new fetch person request, open social data request, person ID viewer. Now that looks quite scary, but don't worry. All it's saying is the first request that I want to make, add to the request a new fetch person request, so I want information about a person, and the information that I want is the viewer. And please store it to a variable called viewer so I can get to it later. Now, hopefully, you're all saying, viewer, what's that? Well, this is what the viewer is. OK, so Open Social has two main concepts. It's got the owner, and it's got the viewer of a page. So this is my high five profile. I'm actually going to show it to you live. It's so awesome. It's got animated graphics and everything. highfive.com. And hopefully, it knows who I am. There we go. Also access something called owner friends, owner underscore friends, and that's my friends. So the friends that I've got within High Five. You've also got a viewer. Now this may or may not be you, but it's the person looking at the page, and it's often different from the owner. Add, request new fetch people request open social data group viewer friends, viewer friends. And what this is doing is much the same as above. It's saying instead of a person request, have a people request. So we're going to get back a group an array. We want the viewer friends. We want to chuck it into a variable called viewer friends so that we can read it later. And then finally, we're saying rec.send onload friends. And that's a callback function. So when that completes, it's going to call this function here, onload friends. And you can see this in action on my internet connection holds up, perfect. And then I'm going to hit execute. And because I haven't specced out the onload friends yet, what's happening is it's making this request, it's requesting onload friends, and then with onload friends it says, hello, I received some data. Isn't that fun? So there's your alert box. So we know that that's working. The next thing we have to do is get the actual data out. And how do we do that? Actually, again, as long as it matches in both. So then create some HTML. var HTML friends of viewer get display name. You can probably guess what that does. It gets the display name of the person object. Add a line break and start an unordered list. Then viewer friends is data response get viewer friends. So again, the object that was named before the variable, get data. And that returns a bunch of people. And then all we're going to do is iterate through each person, get their display name, and stick li tags either side to make a list. Then we're going to close it, and then we're going to say document get element by ID DOM handle inner HTML is HTML. Pretty straightforward. All we're doing is dropping this HTML that we've and hopefully we'll just need to change this to output, because remember, we're in the development area, so we don't have any divs explicitly. And then when I execute this, hopefully, there we go, that looks hopeful, you'll see a list of my friends. We're nearly done, I promise. You'll get a chance to code in a second. I can tell you're excited. So all we're doing here is generating 3 random bits of data. Random number between 0 and 5, random number between 0 and 100, or maybe 1 and 100, I can never remember. And then the current date. And then what we're going to do is, well, we've created the open social data request that we the actual data itself, here data 1. And we're doing that for app field 2 and app field 3. And when we've done that, we send it to a handle populate my app data. That's just a callback that is going to check for errors. So I won't show you that. That's just saying, if object had error, then tell the users that there was something wrong. What's going to be more interesting is actually pulling that data back. So first of all, you create an array of the information you want. You say, I've got a new app data person request. I want it for the viewer, and I want it for these fields, and I want to stick it into viewer data. And when I finish my request, here's the callback. Here's the callback. Data that you've retrieved. I mean, really straightforward. We're trying to make this interface for you to be able to deploy information to the data store as easy as possible. Now, don't worry about this. Templating. And that will allow you to take a page like this, which lists friends, down to that, because all we're doing is, much like Facebook, creating templates that allow you to just use macro replace. And the container, the social network itself, will do the donkey work. So you're going to be able to chuck out apps much, much more easily. Friend Connect. I'm just going to dwell on this for a very quick second because I realize this is going to be useful to some of you. This is a site called My Latest Piece. It's an example site, but it's a nice example. Imagine there's a chap called Zeke Shaw. He creates stuff, and he gets 1 million viewers every day who come and comment on all his stuff. You go to his website, and you see that there's 1 million comments. Where do you start? I mean, you could start at the top, but how do you know that any of that's relevant? What Friend Connect tries to do is let you take your social graph from MySpace or Yahoo or Google or wherever and apply it to a third-party website. So I can OpenID account, and also any of the social networks like MySpace, Netlog, and so on. Once they implement 0.9, will automatically appear up here. So I log into my Google account. I've selected Google, and I get back here. This obviously isn't me, it's Mussy. But then, bang, I'm logged in. And it also knows about my friends across Google, so it can tell me of the 3,000 members here, 39 are my friends. There's some other functionality you can add too, but I wanted to skip this for brevity. But basically, this gadget down here is a custom app. So you can write anything using the open social specification to actually activate the social graph of others on your site. So it might be as simple as just saying, show only reviews from my friends. Because that's, you know, instead of seeing 1 million reviews, you just see the reviews of the 10 people you know on that site. Or it might be as complex as actually writing data back to the social network. It's a two-way street. I can talk to the social site. And all you're doing, you saw Ahmad earlier cut and paste some YouTube code onto a page. Exactly the same for Friend Connect. There's a wizard where you can configure everything, and if you're not desperately technical, you can cut and paste this gadget onto your website. If you are, then you can get stuck in and write a really custom app. It's entirely up to you. And finally, I promise finally, Shindig. This is the final part of the piece. So we've seen building social applications, we've seen Friend Connect, but for the social networks themselves, they can implement something called Shindig. Now, Shindig is what came out of the specification build. So we defined the specification, and now we basically have some employees that we pay full-time to implement the specification of Shindig. So there's something called the Open Social Foundation. Under an hour's work. We want it to be as plug and play as possible. And so the Open Social Foundation is at opensocial.org. And if you have any interest whatsoever in defining the specification going forward, come here, click Evolution of the Spec, Spec Process, and you'll get through to a list. And basically all you have to do is sign up for a mailing list, and you'll get information about proposed specification changes. And whoever you are, you can get stuck in and say that's a bad idea because, or that's a good idea because, or what about this, we forgot it. We really, really want the community as a whole to push this spec forward, because we realize that even as many companies as are involved now, we still haven't thought of every single use case. So that is the end of the presentation. You'll be very happy to know.